Hey folks, Deano here again. Right, so this is essentially the second part of the review. What we're going to do is, first of all, do comparisons to other figures, because there are quite a few comparisons that I want to do. We'll do some head swaps to see what works on this figure and vice versa. And finally, we'll talk about a few sort of fixes that the community has come up with to sort of fix the loose joints, things like that. And finally, we'll talk about the future of this guy, because if certain third-party companies, Demoniacal Fit, decide to do accessory packs, this guy could be amazing. So yeah, let's get into comparisons first, shall we? So in terms of height, as I said before, he is very tall, so he's definitely the end of the Cell Saga version of Trunks. That's him compared to the original figure, which is, believe it or not, this guy's actually in scale with how tall he was when he first appeared. As if we then bring in Goku, you can see the height differences here. Then we put him over here, and yeah, he's pretty much the same size as Trunks now. But yeah, moving Goku out of the way, we'll bring in Armored Trunks, and again, this guy is taller, so the only explanation, apart from that the line's slowly getting bigger over time, which I don't personally believe, because the 3.0s are the only ones to be a bit bulkier, is that this is just the definitive version of Trunks. It's not the version that we first see. It can be whatever version you want it to be. Personally, I'm calling him the end of the Cell Saga version. So yeah. Finally, even compared to the bootleg for the Dragon Ball Super Trunks, you'll see he's still taller. So yeah, even with this guy's abnormally long legs. So yeah, the best way to describe it is the base body is the same one that they used for Gohan. Now Gohan is a little bit taller, but that's partly due to the fact that you don't have to have his legs splayed out as much. If I put him into more of a hero sort of pose, like so, he then becomes a lot more comparable. So yeah, the funny thing is, this guy does have a little bit of wiggle to him. So the issue might be with the actual base molds that they're using before they're sculpting the figures. But anyway, let's get this guy out of the way and take a look at head swaps. So we know that the normal and the Super Saiyan heads work perfectly fine on this guy. But what about on this guy? So let's pop that off there, put that off to the side, and let's pop this off. So if we look here, you will see the pegs are almost identical. There's a slight difference with that guy's, but other than that, the only real issue is with the sheer size of the faces. Because if I put him on here, because it does work, it does actually work. There's the nice pop. You'll see that, yeah, the neck comes across a little bit scrawny it looks decent enough, but the neck could do with being a little bit wider, unfortunately. But yeah, that works quite well, and it pops on and off actually rather well. I think these new style pegs, the way they do it is made so that it doesn't stretch the peg quite as much. If we pop this guy on, it's a little bit worse. You can see he's kind of got an elongated neck, because just like the original figure, the Super Saiyan head sits taller on the body than the base form head does. But it does still work. If you angle the face down a bit, you kind of hide that. And yeah, you've got yourself a nice very end of the Cell Saga, where Trunks kills his Cell. So yeah, and the bangs being up really does sell that point. So yeah, this body, or the upcoming one, that's due out in a few months, the reissue of it, these heads will work just fine. In terms of the other way about, if we bring this guy back in, so first off, the Demoniacal Fit heads. Those do fit with a little bit of finagling. There we go. That looks excellent. I really like that. The faces on the armoured Trunks are just big enough that it doesn't look daft. Yeah, this one also works quite well. Well, I say it works quite well. This one is more just sitting there. The jacket sort of gets in the way of this head, and it just pops back off. But it does work. Possible custom for the BoJack or Broly movies, that would work quite well. And finally, the official heads do actually work. You just have to watch the back. And I have lost that face. There we go. Pop that out there. Pop that on. And there you have future Trunks just after he's come out of the time chamber with Vegeta. The clothes aren't tattered, but it's close enough. And then a what if the Super Saiyan version. So yeah, all of the heads pretty much work fine with him. You just have to do a little bit of jiggling about. So yeah, there we go. So, in terms of fixes, what you can do is, with this one, if you're having exceptional issues, you could simply put a bit of blue tack in it. That would tighten it up a bit. Not a permanent fix, but not one that could permanently damage the figure either. You could also, if you're very careful, if you're doing this, I would recommend taking that off and thickening this peg up with a little bit of super glue. A few layers ought to be enough. And I can't stress this enough, just the peg. Put a tiny layer of super glue, let it dry, put another layer, let it dry, and that should solve this issue. There we go. As I said in the review, mine's is fine for the most part, so I'm not going to do that. In terms of the legs, to get rid of this jiggliness, this does pop out rather easy. So if we look inside, you can see the whole mechanism moves. That's literally just tolerance issues in the factory. If I can put the white balance up, see if we can see inside. Not really. So yeah, I don't know if you're going to be able to see that as well. But if you put a dab of super glue, I can't take credit for this, by the way. There's a few different people on YouTube that have already mentioned this. If you put a couple of dabs of super glue right at the edge, past like the mechanisms for moving the leg up and down, when you open it up, you'll be able to see the differences yourself. If you wiggle it, you can actually see where the edge is. Just take a toothpick and dab the tiniest little bit at the corner on each side, being especially careful, and I can't stress that enough, being especially careful not to touch the joint itself. And that does in fact fix it. I'm not doing it myself on camera because I don't trust myself, but yeah, if you want detailed tutorials, there's a couple on YouTube right now. I highly recommend looking them up. Once I get to it, I will be doing so myself. So yeah, last thing to mention is customization. So I've seen on the internet a few people, I'll just show you because they do come off rather easily. There we go. And there we go. So yeah, this is just a free floating piece. And this right here is basically the innards of trunks. So it would actually be very easy for Demoniacal Fit. Yeah, I don't even think that's glued, can't we mention it? Well, it might be at the back, but that's something Demoniacal Fit would come up with. But when you look at it like this, all this is the same design as Gohan's chest piece. So Demoniacal Fit could quite easily come up with, I don't know, some sort of cover which would go in here on both sides, much like the covers on Gohan, but it would then go around the back and cover this blue, so you wouldn't have to modify that. And just like that, you would have an End of the Cell Saga vest look, or with the long hair, the Broly look, the Broly movie look. It would obviously come with a modified pair of Gohan arms, which you could then replace the jacket arms with, and he would be sleeveless. Because, of course, these arms, although I can't get them off the Gohan, it's a lot tighter than the trunks. These fit the trunks perfectly fine because it's the same base mold, as far as I can tell. So you can just imagine the bare arms, and then that on top. So yeah, it would look really good in my opinion. I am just too much of a wuss to do it, especially on camera at the moment. Which is why I am basically calling on Demoniacal Fit to see if they can come up with something. Even if they can't work out the sleeveless look, I would love it. Or the jacketless look altogether, sorry. I would still love it if they could come out with an accessories pack with an updated couple of heads and a pair of jacketless arms. Because I think the BoJack movie version of Trunks, especially, is one of the best designs Trunks has ever rocked. But yeah, guys, that's just a few ideas to get you started, and a few options. I can't put that back in on camera. So yeah, basically, let me know what you guys think in the comments. And until next time, I'll see y'all later.